You are tired. Maybe you don't even know exactly why, but you feel it in the marrow of your bones. You feel like you are always carrying an invisible weight, a burden you've shouldered willingly, believing it your obligation to keep everything in balance. Please, everyone, avoid conflicts. Always be kind, understanding, polite. You learned early on that being a good person was the right thing to do, that the good win in the end, that if you are kind, others will reciprocate, that it's enough to be fair, honest, humble, and the world will recognize and reward your virtue. But what if I told you that all of this is, at best, a half-truth, and at worst, a comfortable lie? A lie carefully crafted and taught to keep you well-behaved, predictable, and ultimately controllable. How many times have you bitten your tongue, swallowed your truth to keep the peace? How many times have you erased yourself, minimized your own needs and desires, just to avoid disappointing someone else? How many times have you let someone disrespect you, take advantage of you, and still, you smiled weakly, saying, "It's all good," while inside, resentment festered. You swallowed your tears, your anger, your pride in the name of a supposed virtue that only served to make you invisible. Listen carefully, because this is critical. The world does not inherently reward the nice guys. The world, in its brutal indifference, rewards the strategic, the decisive, the ones who dare to claim their space. If you are here listening to these words, it's because you have already felt the sting of this truth in your own skin. You have been frustrated beyond measure, trying to be the nice guy, the good person, the understanding friend. And now, a chilling realization is dawning. The more you try to be universally accepted, the less you are genuinely respected. The more you give in, the more others demand. The more you offer, the less you are valued. And that's where Machiavelli, the infamous political philosopher, comes into the picture. Machiavelli was not the devil incarnate that many have portrayed him to be. He was, perhaps, the first to unflinchingly speak the naked truth about how power truly works, stripping away the comforting illusions. He understood something that most people, clinging to their idealistic notions, refuse to accept. That pure, unadulterated morality, detached from the harsh realities of the world, is a dangerous trap. That being seen as good is not the same as being genuinely effective, fair, or worthy. In this discourse, we are going to speak without filters, without masks, about why you need to reconsider your unwavering dedication to being a good person, as it's traditionally defined. And no, that doesn't mean advocating for becoming someone cruel or cold-hearted. It means waking up. Awakening from the childish dream that the world is fundamentally fair and that simply being virtuous is enough to guarantee reward and respect. We will expose the uncomfortable truth, no matter how jarring it may be. Because as long as you are desperately trying to please everyone, you will remain perpetually in their hands, a hostage of your own unyielding kindness. And if you are already weary of being used, ignored, and readily discarded, perhaps it's time to change, to learn from Machiavelli what you were never taught and finally seize control of your own destiny. Ready to embark on this challenging but ultimately liberating journey? Then let's get started. Do you still cling to the belief that the world genuinely values good people? Take a long, hard look around you. Who are the individuals who are most admired, who consistently holds leadership positions, who commands respect, wields influence, and occupies significant space? Are they invariably the most generous, the most compassionate, the most inherently just, or are they often the most strategic, the most assertive, the most adept at remaining unmanipulated? The truth is brutally simple. The world is not governed by unwavering kindness, but by cold, hard utility. Machiavelli understood this stark reality centuries ago. He didn't write The Prince as a how-to guide for malevolence. He wrote it to expose how the game is actually played, to equip the reader with the knowledge to navigate the treacherous landscape of power. And one of the most bitter yet essential lessons he imparts is this: being good is not enough. In many cases, being only good is the quickest route to being exploited and discarded. You can dedicate your life to being loyal, kind, and understanding. You can consistently give your best, tirelessly helping others without expecting anything tangible in return. But the moment you are no longer perceived as useful, you will be forgotten, replaced, silenced, and worst of all, the perpetrators will likely feel little to no guilt. Why? Because the world, in its pragmatic calculations, does not measure your worth based on your intrinsic morality. It measures it based on what you deliver, the influence you command, and the tangible impact you make. Have you observed how the nice guys are perpetually chasing after opportunities, constantly justifying their actions, explaining themselves ad nauseum, desperately trying to prove their worthiness? Meanwhile, those who confidently set boundaries, who are unafraid to say no, who present themselves clearly and unapologetically, are often the ones who are genuinely respected. They have a voice that resonates. They command space that others readily yield. And why is this the case? Because blind, indiscriminate kindness is often perceived as weakness. Those who never confront never pose a threat, and those who do not threaten are rarely taken seriously. They are seen as a readily available resource, not as a distinct presence, as a tool to be used, not as a valuable individual. You can expend every ounce of your energy trying to please everyone around you, but if you do not project an image of power or consequence, no one will hesitate to take advantage of you. It's a harsh reality, I know, but it is the reality nonetheless. Machiavelli famously said that a leader should not primarily seek to be loved, but to be feared if forced to choose between the two. And what profound truth was he conveying? That true respect arises from the perception that you are someone with the power to act decisively, that you cannot be readily trampled without facing significant consequences, that you are not a replaceable pawn in someone else's manipulative game. And this principle applies directly to you. If you continue living solely to be pleasant and agreeable, you will continue to be viewed as someone easily manipulated and readily discarded. Not because you are inherently a bad person, but because the world, in its unforgiving calculus, does not reward those who willingly fade into the background. It's time to understand the origins of this unhealthy desire to be universally accepted, because lurking behind your seemingly benevolent kindness, there is often something deeper, something more insidious, something that may have been subtly sabotaging your potential for years. And that is exactly what we will explore next. Now, we will delve into the psychological roots of those who are driven to constantly please others and discover why, more often than not, being nice is simply a cleverly disguised form of fear. You weren't born with an innate desire to please everyone you encounter. That behavior was painstakingly taught to you, and more insidiously, it was conditioned. From early childhood, you learned, consciously or unconsciously, that being accepted and loved came at a price, giving up essential parts of yourself, plastering on forced smiles, suppressing genuine desires, and silencing dissenting opinions, all in the name of seeking approval. From seemingly innocuous phrases like, "Don't do that, it's unseemly," to seemingly virtuous commands like, "Be nice," to suppressive directives like, "Don't talk back," to subtly manipulative labels like, "You're such a polite child." Little by little, you molded yourself to fit into the restrictive mold that others expected of you. But what no one explicitly told you is that constantly striving to please others is an insidious emotional trap, a self-constructed psychological prison built with poisoned compliments and punishments cleverly disguised as education. You learned that if you pleased others, you would be showered with love and affection. And conversely, if you dared to express anger, set healthy boundaries, or act in a way that was deemed selfish, you would be met with rejection and disapproval. So, you did what any rational mind would do to survive in a perceived hostile environment. You adapted. The problem is that this seemingly harmless adaptation gradually morphed into debilitating submission. Today, you no longer possess the ability to say no without experiencing excruciating guilt. You feel an overwhelming sense of responsibility for the well-being of others, even if it actively destroys you from the inside out. You experience intense frustration, but you keep it bottled up, afraid to cause conflict. You are perpetually disappointed, but you forgive far too quickly, giving others the benefit of the doubt they rarely deserve. You exhaust yourself trying to maintain an image that others have imposed upon you, not because it aligns with your true essence, but because it is what you learned provided you with a fleeting sense of security. But here's a brutal reality check. This is not genuine kindness. This is crippling fear. Fear of being rejected. Fear of not being deemed worthy of love. Fear of being perceived as a bad person. Fear of embracing who you truly are, complete with authentic desires, righteous anger, healthy boundaries, and a powerful voice. And this pervasive fear has insidiously transformed you into someone who actively sabotages themselves, someone who hides behind socially accepted but emotionally destructive behavior patterns. And the most tragic part of this whole insidious process, you don't even consciously realize you're doing it. You rationalize your behavior, calling it empathy. But in reality, it's a crippling fear of confrontation. You justify it as understanding, but it's actually a deep-seated fear of abandonment. You masquerade it as kindness, but it's nothing more than a desperate fear of not being enough. Your carefully cultivated kindness is, in fact, a skillfully constructed mask, an unconscious strategy designed to avoid the excruciating pain of rejection. But this elaborate mask comes at an exorbitant cost. It relentlessly suffocates your authenticity, diminishes your inherent power, and erodes your personal dignity. And if you do not consciously remove this restrictive mask, it will eventually fuse to your very skin. It will become your defining identity. And one day, you will gaze into the mirror and no longer recognize the person staring back. But there is a way back to yourself. And to rediscover that path, we need to learn from someone who possessed an unparalleled understanding of the power of image, perception, and strategic maneuvering, Machiavelli. We will get straight to the point. What the Prince can teach us about how to liberate ourselves from being held hostage by our desperate need to appear good and begin to command respect for who we truly are, flaws and all. If you are stubbornly clinging to the notion of living solely as a good person, hoping against hope that others will somehow recognize your inherent morality, your unwavering ethics, and your unshakable integrity, you need to stop deluding yourself right now. Machiavelli warned us over 500 years ago. This path is aesthetically beautiful, but strategically dangerous. In the real world, it is not the good who inevitably win. It is the effective who ultimately prevail. And effectiveness in the complex game of life requires strategic thinking and calculated action. It requires a deep understanding that people do not primarily act based on your intrinsic goodness. They act, more often than not, driven by their own self-interest, their deeply ingrained fears, and the power they possess or seek to acquire. In The Prince, Machiavelli chillingly writes, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few genuinely feel what you truly are." This deceptively simple sentence packs a powerful punch. It ruthlessly unmasks the comforting illusion that being inherently true, pure, and authentic is, in and of itself, enough to automatically earn you respect and influence. The reality, as Machiavelli so clearly saw, is far more harsh. People do not possess the ability to instinctively see your pure intentions. They react primarily to your outward appearance, the image you project, and the tangible impact you have on their lives. You may be the most inherently just person in the world, but if you project an image of weakness and vulnerability, you will inevitably be treated as weak. You may possess the most generous heart imaginable, but if you fail to inspire respect in others, you will likely be ignored or taken advantage of. And that is precisely why the prince, and here the prince represents you, anyone who desires to take conscious control of their own life, cannot afford to be naive. He must cultivate the ability to appear virtuous when it is strategically advantageous, and conversely, be prepared to act decisively and even ruthlessly when the situation demands it. Machiavelli asserts that the prince must know how to effectively utilize the dual nature of animals. He must embody the cunning of the fox to recognize hidden traps and the imposing strength of the lion to terrify the ever-present wolves. This is a brutally honest metaphor. The fox possesses cunning intelligence, sees hidden dangers that others miss, and knows how to move silently and strategically. The lion, on the other hand, inspires fear through its sheer strength, commanding presence, and unwavering resolve. Machiavelli does not advocate for being exclusively one or the other. He urges the prince to cultivate the ability to be both. Be wise enough to perceive those who are attempting to manipulate you, and be strong enough to make others think twice before even considering taking advantage of you. Do you genuinely desire to be respected? Then you must understand this fundamental truth. The concept of virtue that Machiavelli recommends is not the same watered-down version preached by conventional moralists. It is virtu, a potent mix of unwavering courage, keen intelligence, audacious action, and unshakable self-control. It is the ability to act with calculated coldness when the situation necessitates it. It is understanding that sometimes appearing cruel is the only way to maintain order and protect yourself and your interests, not out of inherent malice, but out of strategic wisdom. Here's another chillingly insightful quote from Machiavelli. A man who persists in acting in all circumstances like a good man is doomed to ruin among so many who are not good. And you, in all likelihood, already intuitively know this to be true. You have, in the past, been that man. You have persistently tried to be good in every conceivable situation. And what tangible rewards have you reaped as a result? More often than not, abuse, silent treatment, and blatant injustice. The inconvenient truth is that people, in general, do not play fair. And if you continue to operate under the idealistic assumption that they do, you will invariably lose. This does not mean abandoning your core values. It means strategically ceasing to use them as self-imposed shackles. It means consciously starting to act with intention and calculated power, carefully considering how your inherent goodness is being perceived and potentially exploited by others. Machiavelli was not inherently cynical. He was, above all else, a realist. He observed humanity without rose-tinted glasses, without self-serving veils of illusion. And he penned the Prince as a practical manual for surviving and even thriving in a world where outward appearance is power and weakness, masquerading as virtue is often a death sentence. But perhaps, at this point, you're wondering, is there any way to effectively balance these seemingly contradictory ideas? How can I stop being inherently naive without morphing into a cold or overtly evil person? In the next section, we will shatter the false dichotomy that you only have two mutually exclusive choices: to be perpetually nice or to be unrepentantly cruel. There exists a viable middle path, and it begins with cultivating the unwavering strength to stop deceiving yourself. There is a fatal confusion that insidiously destroys the lives of countless people. The fundamentally flawed idea that to be a good person, one must be inherently submissive, that to be virtuous, it is necessary to silently accept everything that is thrust upon you, to forgive every transgression without question, and to relentlessly suppress anything that bothers you in order to maintain a superficial semblance of peace. This is not genuine kindness. This is debilitating naivety. It is cowardice skillfully disguised as virtue. And if you fail to grasp this crucial distinction, you will continue to function as the emotional doormat of the world. True, empowering kindness does not require you to nullify your own needs and desires. It requires heightened awareness, unwavering clarity, and the freedom to choose how you will respond to any given situation. Being good does not equate to being a perpetually cheerful fool who is always available, constantly smiling through the pain, and tirelessly sacrificing for those who wouldn't lift a finger to help you in return. That behavior is nothing more than self-abandonment. It is insidious emotional dependency, cleverly masquerading as morality. Naivety foolishly believes that people will invariably treat you with the same unwavering kindness and compassion that you readily extend to them. Naivety clings to the delusion that the world is fundamentally fair, and that if you are consistently ethical and integral, others will automatically recognize and reward those qualities. Naivety desperately expects gratitude, reciprocity, and thoughtful consideration, and as a result, it inevitably lives in a perpetual state of frustration and profound disappointment, because it is projecting onto others a level of inherent nobility that, in reality, simply does not exist. True kindness, on the other hand, is fundamentally different. It is firm, resolute, and unwavering. It knows how to confidently say no without feeling crippling guilt. It possesses the wisdom to know when to walk away from toxic situations and manipulative individuals. It understands that not everyone is inherently deserving of your best efforts, and that freely giving your best to those who have nothing of value to offer in return is a wasteful act, not a noble display of generosity. You can be a genuinely just, compassionate, and ethical person, and still command respect, even fear. Be respected as someone who commands a powerful presence, who clearly knows what they will and will not tolerate, who is not afraid to set and enforce healthy boundaries. Machiavelli, despite seeming overtly cruel to modern sensibilities, did not inherently hate virtue. He vehemently hated naivety. He understood that in a world teeming with opportunistic predators, kindness without commensurate strength is nothing more than fresh meat carelessly left in the middle of the jungle. The critical question you need to honestly ask yourself now is this: is your kindness actively protecting you or unwittingly exposing you to potential harm? Is it strengthening you or systematically destroying you? Because if your current definition of being good involves passively living by swallowing injustices, accepting meager scraps, and inexplicably blaming yourself for feeling justifiable anger, then you are not actually being good at all. You are, in reality, being dominated. And there is a potent antidote to this debilitating dynamic. There exists a viable balance point, a place where you do not have to sacrifice your inherent essence, but you also do not have to needlessly kneel before anyone, a place where you can confidently act with unwavering courage, laser-like clarity, and keen emotional intelligence. In the next section, we will thoroughly explore this transformative path. We will talk about how to stop being inherently nice without morphing into a complete scoundrel, and finally seize control of your own life without betraying your authentic self. If you are truly committed to regaining your self-respect and living life on your own terms, this is where the profound transformation truly begins. Many people who experience a rude awakening to their own state of ingrained submission often fall into a dangerous trap. They mistakenly believe that they need to become cold, insensitive, and almost pathologically cruel in order to effectively stop being nice. This is the well-known and often destructive rebound effect. After enduring years of being readily exploited and taken advantage of, you may logically conclude that the only viable way out is to become the polar opposite, someone tough, emotionally indifferent, and ruthlessly calculating. But this is yet another insidious trap, carefully designed to keep you from realizing your full potential. Because when you consciously abandon your inherent essence in favor of a fabricated persona, you are not genuinely strengthening yourself. You are simply masking your deep-seated pain and fear through the defense mechanism of blatant denial. And that's not genuine freedom. It is simply trauma disguised as power. True liberation happens when you learn to be authentically whole. When you stop acting solely to please others and start taking decisive action that aligns with your own intrinsic values and goals. It's not about choosing to be exclusively good or inherently bad. It's about fearlessly embracing being real, about looking yourself squarely in the mirror and knowing without a shadow of a doubt that you can be genuinely kind, but you will never again be passively compliant. That you can be deeply compassionate, but you will never again be permissive to the point of self-destruction. That you can freely extend a helping hand, but you will no longer desperately beg to be seen or acknowledged. So, how do you effectively stop being inherently nice without ultimately betraying who you fundamentally are? First and foremost, you must understand that your voice inherently matters. You have likely been conditioned to believe that complaining, setting healthy boundaries, or even simply disagreeing with others is inherently selfish or rude. But that is an insidious lie perpetuated to keep you under control. True selfishness lies in expecting you to silently endure pain and suffering, while others freely speak over you, disregard your needs, and trample on your boundaries, speaking up assertively, taking a firm stand for what you believe in, confidently saying, "I do not accept this." That is the very essence of dignity. It is the tangible expression of self-respect. Second, consciously practice saying no. Saying no is one of the most liberating acts you can possibly undertake. And it doesn't necessarily have to be delivered in an aggressive or confrontational manner. It doesn't have to be shouted from the rooftops. A calm, firm, and non-negotiable no, delivered with unwavering conviction, possesses far more power than 1,000 rambling justifications and weak apologies, because it communicates the essential message. You have clearly defined limits, and those who have limits are inherently respected. Those who do not are readily exploited. Third, carefully observe who is noticeably bothered by your changing behavior. These people will serve as a reliable thermometer, indicating the degree to which you are disrupting established power dynamics. If you begin to assert yourself confidently, and someone tells you that you are different, that you are acting strange, or that you are behaving selfishly, it's highly likely because your ingrained submission was previously highly beneficial to them. When you consciously change your behavior, you are effectively breaking the previously unspoken pact that allowed them to readily use and manipulate you, and that is inherently uncomfortable for them. But don't be fooled or dissuaded. This discomfort is a clear sign of tangible progress. Fourth, stop trying to be universally understood by everyone you encounter. Not everyone will readily understand or approve of your personal transformation, and that's perfectly okay. You do not owe unwavering loyalty to the artificially constructed image that others have created of you. Your primary loyalty should be to your own truth, to your inner peace, and to your overall emotional well-being. Fifth, consciously replace the desperate desire to be universally accepted with a deeply ingrained commitment to authentic self-expression. When you consistently act authentically, you may inevitably displease some people along the way, but you will simultaneously attract the genuine respect of those who truly matter. And more importantly than that, you will finally begin to deeply respect yourself. And that is the kind of lasting respect that no one can ever take away from you. Machiavelli did not write to teach you to become deliberately cruel or malevolent. He wrote to teach you to stop being inherently naive. And the greatest naivety of all is stubbornly believing that being perpetually nice is, in and of itself, enough to command respect in this often unforgiving world. It is not. It takes unwavering courage to consciously abandon the self-limiting role of the perpetual pleaser. It takes immense strength to authentically be who you are without constantly asking for permission. But this challenging journey is not yet over, because now comes the decisive moment. The conscious choice between continuing to unwittingly sabotage yourself or finally seizing the reins of your own destiny. In the final section, we will conclude with a direct, brutally honest, and ultimately necessary call for you to understand That your ingrained obsession with being good may be costing you everything of value in your life, and that the time has unequivocally come to make a definitive decision. Do you want to be superficially loved by everyone, or do you want to be genuinely free? It's time to be brutally honest with yourself, for a change. How much longer are you going to continue pretending to be the perpetually nice guy? How much longer will you relentlessly sacrifice your precious energy, your authentic voice, and your personal dignity just to desperately maintain a fabricated image that isn't even yours to begin with, but that others have come to expect from you? Do you genuinely believe that this inherently self-destructive behavior constitutes true virtue, that it is a testament to your inherent nobility? No, it is in reality a prison, a self-constructed psychological prison, an emotionally stifling prison, a lavishly decorated cell adorned with false compliments, where you are readily applauded for being harmless, for being predictable, for never posing a perceived threat to anyone. But I'm going to tell you something that perhaps no one has had the courage to say to you before. No one is going to magically free you from this insidious prison. No one is ever going to come along and genuinely thank you for all of your selfless sacrifices, shower you with the respect you inherently deserve, and finally say, "Now you can finally rest." That's simply not going to happen, because as long as you remain willing to be readily used, there will always be someone willing to use you. This isn't necessarily an indictment of human malice. It's simply the harsh reality of how the world often operates, and reality doesn't conveniently bend to accommodate well-intentioned desires. You can certainly continue to embody that idealized image of the perpetually good person that society has relentlessly pushed onto you, perpetually calm, infinitely patient, endlessly understanding, always readily available, constantly smiling through the pain, and tirelessly sacrificing your own needs for those who wouldn't even lift a finger to help you in return. But if you choose to persist in this self-destructive pattern, prepare yourself for a future filled with simmering frustration, crippling resentment, and soul-crushing invisibility. Or you can consciously choose to wake up. You can decisively decide, right here and right now, that your inherent kindness will no longer function as a restrictive collar around your neck. That you will consciously choose to act with deliberate intention, commanding presence, and unwavering firmness. That you will selectively choose when to be generous and to whom. That you will resolutely refuse to give what you don't genuinely receive in return. That you will consciously cease to live your life seeking the approval of others like a desperate dog begging for a meager scrap of affection. The truth, however inconvenient, is brutally simple. The world fundamentally respects those who demonstrably respect themselves, and you will only experience true liberation when you stop incessantly asking for permission to simply exist. So, I ask you, with the utmost sincerity, when was the last time you confidently said no without experiencing crippling guilt? When was the last time you consciously put your own well-being first? When was the last time you deliberately did something solely for yourself, without obsessively worrying about how others would inevitably react? Tell me using the comments below. I genuinely want to know the specific moment you first realized that your ingrained desire to be nice was actively destroying you from the inside out. This vital conversation urgently needs to continue because there are countless people currently living in the same restrictive prison of their own making, and you could be the spark that ignites their long-dormant desire for genuine freedom. And if this discourse has genuinely made you rethink your ingrained way of living, acting, and perceiving yourself, then you absolutely need to watch the next one. Trust me on this, it's vitally important. The transformative journey is only just beginning. So, to bring it all together, remember this. It's not about becoming someone you don't recognize or throwing kindness out the window. It's about taking back the reins of your life. It's about understanding that your worth isn't measured by how much you give, but by the value you place on yourself. Free yourself from the trap of needing everyone's approval and embrace the authentic, powerful individual you truly are. This journey is one of self-optimization and reclaiming your agency. And through neuroscience content and better understanding of cognitive clarity, you can build that productivity mindset. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated most with you? Do you have any questions? Or maybe you have your own experiences to share. Please leave a comment down below. Let's get this conversation going. And if you found this helpful and want to dive deeper into these kinds of discussions about emotional intelligence, conscious living, and cultivating that fearless self-respect, then be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Let's build a community of empowered individuals, all striving to live life on our own terms. I look forward to connecting with you further.